From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Dance with me. Yeah, hang with me. Dance with me.
Wake up! To you, the listener, and to the bold chances of Florida State University's intercollegiate tackle football team. I'm Aslan, Corey Clark here as well, or at least joining us through the magic of the internet. Corey, you called it, man. Close, hard-fought contest for the Noles. They come out winners. What a fantastic, magnificent time to be a Florida State Seminole football fan right now.
I mean, they actually had their first good win since the Orange Bowl, and you're downplaying, you're poo-pooing it, you're being sarcastic about it. That's not cool, man. We don't get a lot of fun things to talk about on this show when it's football related. You know, let's enjoy. And the people that listen to this don't get to celebrate a lot of wins. Let's let them celebrate this one without, kicking them in the cojones with the reality of what this program still is. But I'm being serious. I'm not even being sarcastic. That was a nice win for this program.
I heard they're currently in negotiations with Dwight Clark's estate to see if they can trademark the catch into the 74-yard connection.
No. The catch is Kelvin, right? That's who they should trademark, Dwight Clark. This was the we'll just call this the freak.
Okay.
This is the freak.
Updated all-time Florida State quarterback rankings: Winston, Ward, Winky, Francois, McManus, Busby.
I'd throw Casey Weldon in there, give him a bone a little bit. I Ponder and EJ. I mean, there's some other guys maybe I would throw in Knicks before my man Francois. Again, same thing. Nice moment for him.
He's not cemented as the fourth best guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's a debate that'll rage on for long after we're dead. Who the fourth best quarterback in Florida State history is? I don't think many people put Francois up there, but hey, man, that was like his late fourth quarter comeback to win a game winning drive, but late in the fourth quarter. That was his fifth one in his career. Should have had six, but the 16 team blew it against North Carolina after he drove them down the field and scored with 20 seconds left. Man, for what it was it's funny. Shanna actually texted me Sunday night. Shanna, my ex-wife, was in town at the game with my son Brady. And on the way, when she got home, she texted me and said, that's as loud as that place has been in a while. Like you could feel it. Like it was almost like a catharsis for Florida State fans that finally something exciting and fun to cheer about. Like a real big play, a memorable play. So that made it neat. And yeah, it might keep the bowl streak alive. We'll see. They still got a big mountain to climb, but they did what they had to do. They beat a ranked team for the first time since the Orange Bowl. Beat a team that humiliated them last year. A lot of good vibe, and the way they did it, not folding when they got down 21-13, actually playing physical, making plays, I guess, when it mattered. The defense not letting them go right back down the field after Terry's touchdown. A lot of, some positives to take away from that.
Best Florida State tackles with the last name Williams: Brett, Todd, then Juwan.
So, look, that kid. Okay, so we're gonna have to. I feel like he needs to just an off season to reset and regroup.
Corey, 7.8, 50 snaps, 7.8 grade on Pro Football Focus. Brady Scott, 83.1. His grade went down.
He is now very much the number 849. It's not close anymore. Offensive lineman in the country. And, you could tell it wasn't just that when the guy went right through. Number 2, by the way, is a very good football player for Boston College, but he abused him. And, there was the one play where he sacked Francois, just went right around him. It almost looked like Juwan was kind of kind of stepping away to show him where Francois was. Here you go, man. Let me help you to him. And then the very next play, Juwan bear hugs him when he tries to rush him, just straight up grabs him with both arms. And I think that was finally the sign where Greg Fry was like, yeah, no, we can't do it. I would be interested in that. Does Willie say something? Hey, man, or Walt Bell? Hey, man, get somebody in there to at least try to block. They can stay in front of him. Or does Greg Fry make that decision on who plays and who doesn't?
Yeah.
But he was not. Look, let's just reset it. Let him hit the weight room for another 9 months and see what kind of kid we have when August rolls around in 2019.
There must be something about Brady Scott. Maybe they don't like his breath. And I'm not saying that Brady Scott is Brett Williams or Todd Fordham or anything magnificent. He's got potential. He's a young kid.
He's not even like a Rick Leonard.
Yeah. I'm not dogging him whatsoever. There has to be something to have allowed Juwan to get himself back into the lineup. I think he's obviously probably a long-term solution for them. I think when Ira asked either Walt or he asked Willie, and if they said something about if we want to get to where we want to go, he's got to be part of the plans or something to that effect, and he needs to be a solution for them at one of those tackle spots. But I agree with it. I thought they were shutting him down to reprogram him, kind of reset. And, they put him in the Notre Dame game. It seemed like he did fairly decent, but I still think he graded like in the 30s. He was awful. He was just pretty good for himself. Right. But to see him take a step back, that was kind of a bummer. But, whether
I think it was just maybe he practiced well and they wanted to give him a shot. Maybe they thought the month off had helped him clear his mind and clear the cobwebs and but it was the same case as what happened early in the season. He lost confidence and then just started to straight up devolve where you couldn't count on him to stay in front of anyone.
Back to your cordial, friendly ex-wife, Shanna. I did actually get to meet her, Corey. I was there. I saw that.
I know. That was a good time. Good time by all.
She seems very nice. Where did it go wrong for you guys, Corey? What'd you do?
What is the matter with you?
What
is the matter with you?
I will say that I agree. For whatever people want to say about the fan base or people not supporting teams, the people that stuck around in that stadium brought it. I mean, when they had to, and it was a super cool moment because to come back and win it in that fashion. Obviously, when the offense was so sluggish for the better part of that game, I mean, they showed some glimpses, but to win it in that fashion with that throw and catch, to hear that stadium kind of pop and come alive, that was a cool moment, and it was good to see the defense hold up their end of the bargain and not let it go to waste.
Well, and I thought for the first time in a long time, I thought a Doak Campbell Stadium crowd actually rattled a team. Boston College after that play, after the touchdown, that they were rattled. That kid I thought was really rattled, and the one receiver dropped the pass, which would have been a first down. But the crowd actually made a difference, and it's been a while since that happened. And again, that's not through any fault of Florida State fans. They just haven't had a lot of great home moments to cheer for recently. And, that was just, we'll see what it means. I have a hunch it won't mean a ton for the rest of this season, let's say. But, man, it was a nice moment, good moment for a program that needs as many as they can get. And, we look at it, I think they ran for like 156 yards. Francois, for the first time all season, looked like an athlete. Like, again, he wasn't running around busting 35-yarders around right end or anything, but he made a guy miss in a hole one time. He burst forward for an 8 or 9 yard gain one time. I think he ran for 2 first downs in that game, which was as many as he'd run for all season. He moved one of the throws he made, I think it was to DJ Matthews. Might have been Noonie, I can't remember, but he rolled to his left, had a nice rollout and hit him near the sideline. He just looked a little more athletic, a little more able-bodied, which was nice to see. He kept it on his own read once and got about 4 or 5 yards instead of Cam Akers losing 4. And then Cam Akers, I thought, looked like Cam Akers again. And it wasn't just the 55-yard run, which was a really nice run, especially the ability to keep his balance there after he got hit around midfield. But he had like an 8-yard run, a 12-yard run, that touchdown run where he made that dude look silly in the backfield because that wasn't schemed up well.
No.
It's a dude right on him when he got that carry, when he got that ball. And he just stiffed arm and went right around him into the end zone. So you're starting to see some things, right? 480 yards. The Helton kid was nice. The offensive line sometime gave DeAndre time to throw. And like you said, throughout the game, because you were sitting next to me, they were running the ball pretty well. They probably should have given it to Akers more than they did.
I would have liked to seen that happen, but ultimately they got the victory. That's all that matters. So I won't complain. I won't do it.
Right, but when was the first time? When have we said it all this season? Man, they just need to run the ball more.
Yeah.
But you could tell, like there was a little bit of a push. There were some creases, and he was finding them. And for the first time all season. And again, I don't know that it'll make a hill of beans difference on Saturday. but at least we've seen a little bit, like a glimpse of, okay, this thing, maybe it can get going next year. There are some nice pieces.
Yeah, 15's a nice piece. Yeah, I think ultimately probably DeAndre's injury is not a 52-week rehab. It's like a 64-week. He's got to get to week 64 to get fully good and right. But
didn't you agree? Didn't he look a little more like a I don't know, quick twitch, like a guy that could make plays with his feet just a little bit?
I don't know how much of it's confidence. I don't think he looked any more explosive. I know you're not saying explosive, but I think maybe he just trusts his body more at this point, or maybe it's a go for broke thing, and he just, maybe people are saying that he's not going to be here next year, so maybe he's just kind of laying it all out there right now. But no, he did, like, he took chances. They felt good enough to call 2 or 3 design quarterback runs where there was no other option. I mean, it was a fully out and out design quarterback draw, and they schemed that up for him. So maybe there's just something that's kind of clicked here in the last few weeks. Maybe it was James Blackman pushing him in practice. Who knows what it is, but it does add a different element for sure. It does add a little bit of a different element, and they need all the elements they can have if they want to pull out another win, man.
I agree. I agree. But again, let's not act like this is Tebow's Florida team. This is Felipe Franks coming in here. If Florida State, and it's a big if, because I think, I don't know. I would say Boston College has as good a running game as Florida does. I think Florida has a few better playmakers on the outside. Quarterbacks are about even. But, if Florida State's rushing defense played really well in that game. Was physical. Dontavius Jackson had 14 tackles. Nasruddin had 8 or 9. I just thought they tackled hard and they played physical, and they matched that physicality. So if they can do that again, then again they have a shot. I mean, if Felipe Franks beats them with his arm, then hey man, it just wasn't meant to be. But if they can at least make Florida have to throw the ball and to get into some third and longs, well, certainly anything's possible. I mean, Florida's only like a 3-point favorite. So it's not like it would be a huge, stunning upset if Florida State pulled this one off.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I have this sort of eerie feeling about Dan Mullen, but I need to really sit back and think about all the games I watched him coach in terms of the rivalry games, because when he had to play big time games, and it wasn't so much big time competition, but when they played big games. He just would find ways to seize up and almost like sabotage his own team. But I don't think this is that big of a game for them. I mean, they want to win it. It's his first year in Gainesville. He wants to win this game badly. I get it. You want to ingratiate yourself to this fan base. I think you did obviously a good job castrating Tennessee after you lost to them a few years back. The Georgia game, I think, was encouraging. I don't really think if you're a Florida fan, I don't think you'd be too mad at them for playing the way they did against Georgia. That was a pretty competitive game for 3 quarters. But I'm looking at Felipe Franks right here. He's completing 58% of his passes. He's got 20 touchdowns and 6 picks. I mean, he's not.
What he does okay. I don't know the numbers against like real defenses and how many come against Idaho.
Right.
I don't know what his numbers against SEC defenses are. I can't imagine they're great.
He's completed 50% against Tennessee, which is horrible. Obviously, 44 against Kentucky, but against Mississippi State, 71. Vandy,
but
65.
For what? Didn't they only score like 1 touchdown in that game?
What, Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 13-6.
All right. Well, I mean, what is he, like 10 of 13 for 71 yards?
22 of 31 for 219 and a pick.
Well, so 22 complete. I mean, that's, what is that? 7 yards of pass attempt? Not great. But again, he might be able to make he can certainly throw at extreme distances. We know that about him.
Listen,
and he might make plays.
I'm not trying to cape here for Felipe Franks, but I just think that people think that he is just maybe one notch above a walk-on, and this kid he could probably hit a couple passes on the secondary that's had their struggles. I mean, I think the story from the game obviously was to your point that this running defense came alive. I don't know how much of that was just the fact that they remember what happened to them last year, or maybe they got some stuff finally figured out. Guys like Dontavius Jackson flying to the gaps, being gap sound, hitting their run fits and things like that. But it's encouraging because I think you do see similarities between what Boston College wanted to do to win and what Florida's going to have to do to win. And Florida State was able to stymie that portion of Boston College's offense. That guy still ran. That A.J. Dillon kid still ran for over 100 yards. I mean, it was 3 yards per clip, but I mean, they kept at it. They were going to keep banging against it. So
But I mean, yeah, he was he like 37 for 116? I mean, that's great. I mean, you got a guy 37 carries and he got 116 yards total. And I think, and I'm looking at it right now. They had 125 rushing yards on 49 attempts. They averaged 2.6 yards per carry. Man, that's against that team that routinely runs the ball pretty well against you. And last year embarrassed you. Mm-hmm. And you're coming off 3 blowout losses. And the last one, you were like, I don't know. You were just like a wet. I was going to say something I shouldn't have said. You're like a wet piece of bread that was just ripped apart against Notre Dame. They could have run for 600 yards if they wanted to against you. For you to step up the next week and hold a rushing team, a really physical team that prides itself on it, to 2.6 yards per carry. Man, again, if you're looking for positive signs, there haven't been many at all this year. But for one game to see a team kind of rise up defensively like that and play that hard and play that physical, man, and play mean and aggressive and send that big boy backwards. And again, that's something. It's not great. You're still 5-6. You still lost 3 of your last 4. All 3 were blowouts. But after what Clemson, NC State, and Notre Dame did, in the last 2, how they just ran through you, for the rushing and defense to come back like that, again, I thought that was a good positive sign moving forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest positive to me, again, I think from that game, I don't know if you want to pull 2 or 3 positive things. I think the most shining thing you want to hang your hat on is obviously the way the run defense played. And if they can tap back into that, and to your point, like how can, and I know the level of competition is obviously a little bit of a different grade when it comes to Boston College and Notre Dame, who's the number 3 team in the nation, and Clemson, the number 2 team in the nation, and wherever NC State is these days, if they're even there anymore. I don't know. They lost to Florida. They lost to whoever. Who did they lose to the week after they beat Florida State? They lost on a Thursday night to what, Wake?
They lost to Wake, and then they beat the Tar, because everybody does. They beat the Tar out of Louisville this past week.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one for everybody. But it's the fact that the run defense looked that good. I mean, that's the biggest thing to take away from it. Again, and it's crazy that they look so porous against these other teams, but then listen, Boston College is not a slouch. So I wonder if I don't know, the urgency of all this finally. We don't like to think that emotions play a lot into this, right? Whoever has the best players is going to win. There's certain factions of people that don't think coaching matters whatsoever. If anybody could win with Alabama's team. It's not Nick Saban. Anybody could win 13 games with that Alabama team if you ask them. But the fact that they were able to kind of flip some sort of switch, maybe the emotion of last year, the confluence of that with the bowl streak being on the line, the fact that people were just pretty much bracing that they were going to get run off the field again at home, to see them, as you said, rise up. That's the number one thing, and that's the thing you'd want to carry going to the Florida game. Make Florida one-dimensional, and not even because they have Felipe Franks, but what Harlan Barnett says when we ask him every single week about what he wants to get accomplished. Like the number one goal of any defense, stop the other team's run game. Yeah, make them one-dimensional, but make them one-dimensional through the air. There's just so many more opportunities to make plays when they have to reside or sort of fall back on that. So if they can make Florida one-dimensional, yeah, I don't know. I like Florida State's chances if DeAndre Francois got to put a team on his back more so than Felipe Franks.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'd say too. I think you have the better quarterback. And we're not the biggest fans of number 12, but I think he's the best quarterback in this game. You might have better skill players, and I think you do have better skill players than they do. Their offensive line is better, but their offensive line isn't terrific, but it's at least average to pretty good. It's certainly better than Florida State's. The one advantage, well, there's 2 advantages. They don't turn the ball over, and they get turnovers and special teams. So Florida State, I looked it up. Florida's like +7 this year in turnover margin, which is 20th in the country. They were a lot better than that. They kind of went down in a few of those losses. And Florida State's 115th. They're -8. So there's a difference of 15 turnovers between these 2 teams, which quite frankly is a difference between at least a couple of losses. Yeah. So again, I'll probably say it 9 times this week. But if you don't turn the ball over, if you just make them go earn their points, and if you somehow figure out a way to quit getting destroyed in the field position battle, one way or the other, cover a kick, cover a punt a ball when you're trying to pin them deep, get it past the 23, all these things that they did poorly on Saturday because they're just not good at any of it, including Zaquandre White with a personal foul that cost them that whole thing, the face mask and the personal foul and having a re-kick. If you can just hold your own in special teams and not give them the ball, man, it should be a game in the fourth quarter, and then anything can happen because you've got probably the best receiver that's ever lived on your team. And at the end of the day, you're just going to, if it's close, what are you going to do, Aslan?
Throw it up to 15?
Thank you.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You want to talk about that?
I would love to talk about that.
What's the deal? I mean, I saw somebody kind of try to go at you. Francois dropped back 39 times. If you want to count DJ Matthews and that whatever play was, maybe limit, maybe another key to the game. Maybe if Gene Williams is listening, I know Gene always likes to put limit the mistakes as one of his keys to victory. I'm sure somebody's going to say turnover margin on War Chant Report. Maybe just let's not get fancy in this one. I know I said I want to see wild camp. I don't know if I want to see any more flippity-floppity double passes. I know it worked against Miami, should have, but when they ran that against Boston College, that hurt. That kind of hurt a little bit. Didn't like it.
Yeah, it didn't. It was just crazy. Number one, it just didn't. It was odd because it was the only play all day they were under center. So right away, the defense probably knows something's up. It wasn't all that. I think they had a reverse that worked pretty well. I think Treshawn Harrison had a nice gain on a reverse. But other than that, yeah, their trick plays weren't great. It obviously wasn't executed well. And then my man has to know to throw it out of bounds.
Yeah.
You can't take whatever that was, a 10-yard loss, and just completely derail. This team ain't picking up a 2nd and 19, man. I know the defense will give up some 3rd and 18s. Florida State's offense isn't picking up a 3rd and 19. So you got to throw the ball out of bounds. And I'll tell you one thing, Francois might be the best in the country at, is when he's throwing it out of bounds intentionally, my man gets it out of bounds. He throws it to the bricks. He throws it to the crowd. He hit one off the press box window on one of those when he was scrambling out to avoid pressure. My guy leaves no doubt. So anyway, actually probably needs to be a little careful about that because a couple of those are so evident that they could be actually called intentional grounding when you throw it over your receiver's head. I know there's a receiver in the area, but if you throw it over the receiver's head by 12 feet, I feel like you're intentionally doing that, right. And that should probably be intentional grounding. Anyway, not that you asked me about that. Tamorrion Terry, yeah, man.
No, so real quick, Francois drops. But at first, I want to say something funny, but I can't say it because now I'm saying that it's funny. My guy Francois is going like Jonathan Moxon out there and trying to hit mascots on the sideline with his throwaways.
Right.
But 39 dropbacks for Francois, 9 targets for Terry. He was the most targeted player.
But again, I've seen that number. Now, there are a few of those where it looked like he threw it to 3 or he threw it in between him and somebody else.
He needs to knock that off.
Terry when Terry wasn't even running a route.
He needs to knock that off. That's been happening the last few weeks. This whole split the difference where there's 2 guys and he's
exactly.
just I don't know. One of you guys will figure it out. Here you go.
Yeah, I'll throw it. Maybe I'll hit. I don't know which one to throw it to because you're both covered. So maybe I'll just throw it right there in the middle, and it'll be like a Hail Mary. Yeah. But yeah, he's done that a few times. So I don't. How many balls did he really throw to Terry?
Yeah, 6,
I would
maybe.
say 6. Yeah. There were legitimate pass plays which could have been completed. Probably 5.
Right.
And he caught 3 for 112 yards in the game-winning score.
That's to your point. I know there was Mike Tice lost his job eventually in Minnesota back in the day when he was coaching Randy Moss, came up with that whole Randy ratio where they had to throw the ball to Randy Moss a certain amount of times. They thought that'd be the best recipe for victory for them. There has to be something similar like Terry touches. Or Terry targets. We keep belaboring the point. And this isn't, you guys think you know more than coaches. I'm sure they realize it as well. But, maybe they don't realize as much as they should at some point because good stuff happens to him. There's 3 things that'll happen. What are the 3 things that'll happen if you throw it at Tamorrion Terry, Corey?
Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Okay.
Get the extra point team ready.
There you go. Cue up the fight song. Play the fight song.
Yeah.
But no,
yeah, so usually it's going to be an incompletion or it's going to be a pass interference or a completion and a long completion.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess, what more? They got 1 game. They're only guaranteed 60 more minutes, 4 more quarters. Will DeAndre just lock into Tamorrion Terry and realize that this guy is the kid that's going to butter his bread? Because if they win this game, My gosh, Corey, how different is everything going to feel if they win this game?
Yeah, you asked me that Saturday night afterwards, after over a couple of frosty beverages, and it's true, man. You look at, okay, you're 6-6, you beat Florida again, you kept the bowl streak alive, you have a chance to go 7-6 again, and you it's an uptick. You beat 2 straight ranked teams.
Yep.
I don't know the last time that happened either. I really don't. It's been a while, let's just say. And there's just some positivity going into the offseason that we've seen some strides. And I meant to point out, remember, I think I said it last week, like it was almost hard to judge what had happened to this program over the last 3 weeks because of Clemson at home, at Notre Dame, at NC State. Like we did think they were making strides. And then the bottom fell out when they played 2 playoff teams in a team that they just didn't play well at NC State. The bottom fell out. So it was kind of hard to judge, okay, is this program in a spiral? Has it stopped at all? Have we hit the ground floor and are starting to bounce back up? And I thought that this last game against Boston College would be more telling, and I think it was. They outrushed Boston College. Not in a million years would I have thought Florida State would have more rushing yards than Boston College. I mean, I don't think you would have gotten 15-1 odds on something like that before the game started. But they had more rushing yards than Boston College. It's not great, but 480 yards of offense. Cam had 100 yards. DeAndre threw for 300 yards. It was, what would we call it, disjointed, the offense. I mean, I think Logan Tyler still punted 5 or 6 times, and he had a couple really bad interceptions. So it wasn't great. But again, against a competent defense to put up 480 yards, it's not a bad thing when everybody's coming back, when you're looking for things to be hopeful about going into next season. That's now, that's 2 games in a row. I did a story on Cam Akers now. In the last 2 games, he's rushed for 177 yards on like 24 carries and 3 touchdowns. Like, okay, all right. You're starting to see some things, right? That's something to build on going into next season. And then obviously they got 15, and we don't know who the quarterback will be, but I think you're starting to see just the smallest signs. And again, I know I'm grading on an enormous curve because it's not a good offense. It still just scored 22 points or whatever it was. But you're starting to see starting to see glimpses of, okay, what maybe it can be. You're seeing big chunk plays, and you're seeing a rushing attack. So no matter what happens against Florida, isn't that something to build on, though? Whether they win or lose, if they're competitive again, and I know that's not how you talk about Florida State football, but it's the reality of where we are right now. If they're competitive, play hard, it's a close game, they look like a competent offense, say they lose 27-24, but they look competent, and they make some plays, and they just lose a hard luck game, you'll definitely feel better than you did 4 weeks ago, right?
I don't know. I mean, it has to cut both ways. If you beat Florida, no matter how ugly it looks, it's going to feel amazing.
Yeah, sure, that's true.
And if you lose to Florida, no matter how hard luck it is, it's going to be hard to walk away 5-7, all this stuff over with, all the streaks, the winning streak, the bowl streak, and be like, well, that Boston College game was really the better barometer. The Florida game is an aberration.
Yeah. It'll certainly be a really sour taste, like 4 decades in the making, to not make a bowl and to lose to your both rivals, to both your rivals. I mean, yeah, sure, and have some awful losses. Not a lot to build on, but if it is a good game and they play physical and they play with passion and like play hard, and they're there, and they're competing. Again, this is such a small barometer. It sounds dumb even saying it. But it's just how we have to judge this thing right now because of what we've seen for the last 2 years. Then I think at least there's an uptick in some sort of hope going into next season.
By the way, Florida State beat 4 ranked teams in 16. Ole Miss was 11th. Miami was 10th. Florida was 13th. Michigan was 6th. All at the time
Florida
of the
was
game.
13th?
Yeah. At the time of the game. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What did they finish as? Actually, were they good? Were they decent that year? They didn't even score a touchdown in that game, did they?
31-13 was the final in that one.
Yeah, but I think their touchdown was on Noonie's punt return.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's crazy. And then they went and got destroyed by Alabama. I mean, no shame in that, but they went and got destroyed by Alabama. Wasn't Appleby? Not Stuart Appleby. He's the golfer.
He's a golfer. Austin
Appleby. Yeah, that was their quarterback, and they were 13th in the country.
They were 13th in the country, and they finished 14th. They were 9-4. They finished the year 9-4. They finished the year ranked 14th.
What about Ole Miss? There's no way that Ole Miss team was any good that year, right?
But that was week 1, man. That was a good team. They fell apart though. That was a challenging game. Don't poo-poo that win.
No, I'm not poo-pooing that win. I just didn't think Ole Miss was that good.
No.
They got I mean, they torched Charles Kelly for a quarter and a half. But after that, I mean, Florida State kind of dominated that game, I thought. I mean, they didn't look even like a bowl team to me. I don't even know if they made a bowl.
I don't know if they did. I think that was kind of like the beginning of the end for him. They started having some injuries that piled up. But Miami finished the season ranked 20th. And who was the other team I said that was ranked? And then Michigan. And then Michigan finished the year ranked 10th. So there you go. People, I don't know, 16. People have like a weird, you really can't say things have been bad 2 years in a row around here. 16 wasn't a bad season. That was
17 was.
17 was. Oh yeah.
I was I didn't say 3 years. I wasn't poo-pooing 16. I said it was 2 years.
Oh, so we only said the last 2 years. You're counting this current year that they're under.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. No, that's what I'm saying.
When
you what are they now? They're 6-10 in their last 16 ACC games. That was their 6th win in 16 ACC. They were 3-5 last year. They're 3-5 this year. So you take them any way you can get them. And again, it's just such a weird place to be in that where you're just looking to compete and show some pride and play hard. But for heavens to Betsy, that's what you're looking for now. And you got it on Saturday for a team that, at least there was something in there to rally. Because Boston College is a team that if you're not ready to play them, if you don't want to be on the field, well, we saw it last year. If you don't want to really be there, man, they will just road grade you. And they'll have fun doing it. And that kid will run for 230 yards because he's not fun to tackle. But at the end of the game, they were still tackling as hard and playing as hard as they did the first quarter. It's just I thought that was an impressive thing for them to see. It's still a very much a work in progress.
I don't think you can't even really try to diminish the game by saying, well, Boston College had a really important game the week before game day, or at least they were prime time. Clemson, that took all the wind out of them because they competed. Boston College played hard. They had a lead.
They did.
They had all sorts of opportunities to put Florida State away, and the Noles just would not go away, thankfully, because the dream's alive. I don't know what we're going to talk about in the month of December if there's not a bowl game to look forward to. Hopefully it's a Gasparilla Bowl. Want to go back home. Would like to go back home. That'd be nice. I'll root for it.
Gasparilla Bowl. Well, they're going to need a big win. You really do, though, huh? You want those 15 extra morning practices?
Well, no, like I said, across those or over those frosty beverages we had, we can start splitting them up. We don't need to send the entire franchise to cover these. You can go one day, I'll go one day, Ira can go one day, and we can start, resetting.
Man, who are you kidding? Ira's going every day.
I know.
Whether we set it up like that or not, he's going to be there.
Man, he's tireless. He
is. That's what we should call him. Tireless.
Second win Schofel. Always Schofel.
No, I made a play on his name. Instead of tireless, he's tireless. Like Ira, but Tyra.
Oh, I see what
tireless. Anyone? Anyone's this thing on?
Yeah.
Good times.
All right. So let me see what else we can really talk about here. This is something I did want to mention, Corey. I don't know. Did you look at the text message I sent you late Saturday night after we went our separate ways, everybody? The post-game locker room speech from Willie?
No, but I was just looking at that 2016 season.
All right, let's go back.
You know what team they beat that ended up being ranked even higher than Miami? South Florida.
Oh, there you go. Who was the coach? Never mind.
I can't remember. But his team went 11-2 that year.
Did they?
Yeah. And one of the losses was to Florida State when they scored 35 points.
Yeah, that ain't fair.
Yeah, so that was the third best team they beat that year.
Did they win the bowl game after he left for Oregon?
I mean, they went 11-2, so I guess they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay.
All right. So what did you? What was?
Well, you didn't watch it.
Oh no, the Noonie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. So I have a mild, I don't want to say problem.
Well, tell people what you're talking about.
Well, we haven't seen anything from Willie at all in a locker room after a game at all this season. You could argue, well, they really haven't had a lot of fun things to celebrate.
Right.
It would be nice to see, though, how your head football coach is talking to the players after these losses, just to kind of get an idea of who he is, because it's not a Willie thing. I think coaches are not completely different. I think there's a varying degree of who they are when they have to go answer questions in front of the media throng and who they are in the locker room. And that's totally normal. Would like to get to know that part of him more. From what we've seen of him on the booster tour, talking to us after practices, at the podium, after games, stand-up guy. Fantastic human being. Would like to kind of get to know who he is in the locker room. And they showed a clip of him. I think Florida State's football account actually released one clip of him dancing and blowing his coach's whistle, which was kind of funny. It was cool to see a lot of the players getting hyped for that. But, like, I saw the glimpse of it, and people, like, ate it up. And I wasn't too moved by it. I wasn't bothered by it either, but I was like, okay. But, like, people, I think a couple of websites actually transcribed what he said, and they're like, God dang, give me pads. I'm going to run through a wall for this guy. And that's not fair because I don't think he necessarily – he wants to craft his own image. But how much of a bummer is it for him that, like, one of his own players recorded that and put it on social media? It goes back to this whole thing I have of, like, discipline versus having fun, right? So this team was totally undisciplined under Jimbo. Jimbo had no discipline, no accountability, but they weren't having.
Well, no. Again, you're talking about this particular roster.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say his whole. I don't want you to. It seems like sometimes you paint anti-Jimbo as we have no respect or regard for what he did when it was going well. It didn't used to be like that. But yes, these last year and a half or so, apparently it just all the wheels came off. But yes, this roster, not a ton of accountability. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, like, to me, I don't think they're synonymous with each other, but if you're going to be an undisciplined team and you're going to do whatever you want and you're not going to follow the rules, I feel like you're going to probably have some fun because you're going to be doing what you want to do. But then Willie comes in here and creates this culture of accountability and discipline, and we're going to, and then the senior of all guys goes and films him and puts it on social media. Would anybody have ever filmed Jimbo? Like I think that the school would do things and put him out there, but I don't know. Maybe I wasn't following the team closely enough because I wasn't here. But I don't remember ever seeing anything on social media with, like, players posting stuff that was happening in the locker room that seemed to be sort of, I don't know, sacred kind of stuff that shouldn't maybe be out there for everybody to hear. I think that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I don't remember that back before they went on social media hiatus in 2011. I don't remember if there were moments in 2010 or I know I think it was. I can't remember who the player was that got in trouble for Tyler Hunter, maybe, for tweeting some lyrics to a rap song and ended up
about police
drawing
officers or
the ire and then having to ride around with the cops to kind of. Anyway, I don't remember anything like that. Yeah, man. But what we don't know is, number one, for all we know. Well, I don't know. Maybe for all we know, he asked Willie if he could do it. I don't think that's the case. I would be surprised if that's the case, but maybe he did. Or maybe when Willie got wind of it, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Noonie's suspended.
Well, I guess that's my question to you is, and I probably should have phrased it as a question as opposed to just like sloshing around through all these things.
That's what we do.
I mean, I guess you have to put yourself in Willie's. No, I don't want to ask you that, but should this program have done a better job of marketing? Should we have seen something from Willie in a post game locker room setting by now, or is that none of our business?
It's weird. I was thinking about that because I was thinking about that when I saw that the football account had tweeted out something of him in the locker room, and like, yeah, man, I don't see that at all. Like the basketball account sometimes will have, Trent Forrest eating W's and licking his fingers. It's funny stuff, kicking over chairs in the dressing room after a big win. And I don't remember seeing any of that with Willie. And then I was like, well, what would Aslan have said if they would have shown an emotional Willie Taggart after beating Samford or Northern Illinois? What would and I'm not using you just to pick on you, just any Florida State fan. Like, all right, man, whatever. Go win some more games.
Yeah.
Now,
fair.
if they had beaten Miami, If the refs hadn't have cheated and stole it from them,
Oh, here you go. Here they
I bet you would have seen something after that one. And I'm surprised they didn't do something for Louisville because that was an emotional win. I was down on the sideline when that happened. They were going nuts.
Huge.
Huge. That was a really an emotional win and quite frankly a pretty big win in the great because Lord, if you'd lost to that Louisville team, so I don't. I see what you're saying. But I wonder what like they haven't had a win like that to really celebrate. And I would think if they win again on Saturday, you'll see another. The whole team might be FaceTiming. We might do our interviews from the locker room.
Actually,
wait. Like they just might set it up and have us in there. We might go in there and celebrate and throw champagne on each other. Everyone in the media, if they who knows.
Didn't somebody posted locker room stuff of Jimbo saying, "We just beat the damn Gators"? And was it somebody ripped that off the schools, like cameras or something? I remember that.
Yeah, man, that's a good point. I don't know who because I don't think Jimbo would let if they asked him something like that. I think he'd be like, no, I don't want that out there.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, you're right. That happened. I don't remember what that was, but he said we just beat them damn Gators or something, and everybody went crazy. I think that was,
we just
I don't know when that was, 14, 16?
15. I think it was 15.
Was it? It was the, yeah, it was. It was there. That's right. It was the McGuire to Kerr game.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
much like this last game will always be DeAndre to Terry. That game will always be Smag to Kerr.
But yeah, so I mean, I wish you would see the video.
I'm more concerned. This is my genuine concern, and it's not really a genuine concern because he's a senior. But if you haven't had anything from the locker room all year, there's probably a reason for that. And unless my senior was given the go-ahead, what if Willie had just? Who knows what Willie could have done? I mean, it wasn't like he recorded it and then posted it. He was filming that live, right?
Yeah, from what it's Instagram Live.
Yeah, what if Willie had said, and then we're going to beat the dog, blah, blah, blank out of these guys, and we're going to go to a bowl, and I'm going to win a national championship next year. They're going to say Jimbo who? They're going to say Bobby who? What if he just lost his mind and said all this crazy stuff? And then you got your senior, and not that Willie would say that stuff or thinks that stuff, and you got your wide receiver just filming it unbeknownst to the head coach. Remember that happened with didn't that happen with Antonio Brown?
I think
with the Steelers a couple years ago in the playoffs?
Yeah.
And Mike Tomlin got really mad about it.
Yeah.
And Noonie, I know Noonie wants to be the next Antonio Brown, so this is a good way to do it. But I wonder if that was if he was okay with that.
Right.
Or if he was really mad about it. Because I have a sneaking suspicion he's probably really mad about it.
Yeah.
Because, again, why would he think you don't – yeah, because you said the sanctity of it. Why not Instagram Live practice? Or the pregame speech. So I don't know. And it's not a big deal. If it's not a big deal to Willie, it's not a big deal to me. But I don't know that it's not a big deal to Willie. He might have been really not happy that, unbeknownst to him, his wide receiver was filming it. Or maybe he even knew his wide receiver was filming it and everything's fine. I guess we'll find out this week.
Yeah, he might not care. I mean, he obviously is about the social media. There's no lockdown on it with the guys. And I don't know. Some people said, I think the girl who posted on Twitter took it down on Sunday morning. It was like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or something like that. He didn't say anything inflammatory. I think some people might have tried to misconstrue that he was, that'd be bulletin board stuff for Flory, because he just said that everything that's happened this season, all that that's happened this season, throw it out. It doesn't matter. We got one more game against a team that we don't like. We don't like this team. But it was just funny to hear it because people have whatever we're showing of Willie is what people think Willie is by and large, right? People think Willie's soft-spoken, very kind, humble, which he is in a lot of ways. But we've also seen him yell at guys at practice, kick guys out of practice, raise his voice at guys at practice. And that was a lot more of what he was in that locker room than everything else that we've seen out of him, which I think is an interesting thing. Because like I said, I think coaches – certain coaches I think are probably a lot different in a locker room setting than they are in front of the media. I don't think Jimbo was. I think Jimbo's pregame, postgame speeches, he seemed to be the same way he'd carry himself in front of a camera. Now, when a camera wasn't on him, I don't know how he was. Apparently, to a lot of people, he wasn't a nice guy. So we'll say that caveat. It was kind of cool to me to see this other side of him.
I just wish it would have been more of like an official account maybe doing it,
Right.
than a rogue player. That's all. Yeah, I agree with you, and I don't mind. I think that's a good. I don't think it was a bad look for Willie at all. I thought it was a good look. I think people don't usually hear him with that tone of voice because he always knows there's microphones and cameras in front of him, and he's always going to talk a certain way. That's just the way the world works. But in a locker room, when you're seeing him in his natural setting, it was cool to see that. Again, it would have been cooler if it, in my opinion, but again, I don't know all the details, if it was more sanctioned by the university or Willie actually knew it was happening and could sign off on it.
I'm sure part of him probably trumped it up a little bit because I'm sure there was recruits in that locker room. Because
100%.
He kept talking about, we're taking this thing back. We're going to get this thing back to the top. Slowly but surely it's going to happen. So, I think people might have cringed when they heard that. They're like, hey, you just beat Boston College. Let's chill out. But obviously I think that's him trying to let these recruits know, hey, check it out. Look what we just did. You come here. It'll get better, I promise. So, I'll be sure to ask Willie that later on Monday. Also, before we go, a question I'm sure one of us is going to have to ask him, and I don't think a lot of people recognize this. It first came to our attention because of Ira and his hawkish eyes up in the press box. It did seem like maybe Willie was perhaps calling plays more so than he had the last few weeks. Walt still might have called some, but it seems like Willie probably called, and I don't know, maybe he did against Notre Dame and NC State, but we never saw him with a play sheet in his hand, but he had a play sheet in his hand at certain times of the game Saturday. Interested to see what that was about, if there's a different working relationship now, or if that's just how it's been, and maybe just they installed some new plays and he just wanted to have them in his hand to be able to look at it.
I think it was more, I would assume, and I don't think it was for the whole game. I think there were certain stretches where he did it. And again, I think it's more of like, man, this is it's not going well. Let me take it. It's my offense. This is my baby. You had a half, or you had 4 or 5 drives. Let me take over for a few plays here, and you're in my ear instead of you calling plays and I'm in your ear. It might have been it might have just been that. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know if Walt Bell called the majority of the plays and Willie just helped out a few, or what it was. But again, the offense has looked better these last 3 weeks. It's all relative. Yeah. They've scored a grand total of 63 points, which is what Florida scored in one game. But they have looked better. They've looked more competent. And, you're going to have to play well again on Saturday on offense, and to have any sort of chance, you're going to have to, not turn it over and at least score a couple touchdowns. That'd be nice. And throw it up to 15.
Did you watch enough of the Florida-Georgia game to get a decent feel for what you feel Florida's going to be like? I don't want you to jump into it today. We'll talk about it later on in the week, but I just want to know how much film I have to watch.
I probably watched, all told, I don't know, 12 quarters to 11 quarters of Florida play.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, like I saw them, they got down, I think they got down like 21-3 to Vanderbilt. They got down by whatever it was, 17 points to South Carolina.
I saw that when I was in Chicago the other week for the Notre Dame game. I pulled it up on my phone. I was at a diner. I'm like, oh, look at this, South Carolina whooping up on Florida, 31-14. Fantastic. And then, and
then that happened. South Carolina just completely melted down. And Florida made plays too, but mainly their running game though. South Carolina just couldn't stop them running at all, and also stop scoring, which didn't help. But I've watched enough of them again to know that this isn't. Again, they might be. They're favored. They could beat Florida State. They might beat Florida State, but this isn't. An Olympian-sized quest to knock off one of the great teams in college football. I mean, they're 8-3, and they literally. I mean, I just explained 2 games where they were down by 17 or 18 points. And they also beat Mississippi State 13-7. I mean, we're looking at a team that's really close to 5 or 6 losses. Now, they don't have 6 losses. They have 3. But they're really close to being in like the same boat Florida State is. So they're certainly beatable. They're imminently beatable, just like I thought Boston College was, because I think if you're a run-oriented team and Florida State knows you're going to run, I think it would appear they kind of have the horses to at least slow you down a little bit after watching the Boston College game. And if that happens, if you hit a couple chunk plays and make some explosive plays, you got a chance. To me, it's turnovers and special teams.
So what you're trying to say is that this isn't the same kind of Florida team that was coached by head coach Urban Meyer?
Oh, boy.
Irvin Mize ain't walking through that door on Saturday?
Correct.
All right. And shout out before we go to the Lady Knowles soccer team won in PKs. Those are penalty kicks over Southern Cal. They're going to the NCAA women's soccer quarterfinals.
Tough matchup there in the Sweet 16 for the Lady Knowles. They're like a host, like a number 1 type seed, and they had to play the number 5 team in the country in the round of 16. Yeah. That's tough. So anyway, yes, they did win. I think it's their 11th time in 14 years in the Elite Eight. I think there's really no argument that can be made. Krikorian has the best program on campus, the most consistent program on campus. They're always really, really good. They're also crazy young. So the whole roster could be coming back, and it's at least an Elite Eight team, and they play Penn State on Friday at some point. I don't know the time, but if they win that, then they go to the Final Four. And, they're still alive for a national championship, folks.
Hey, man. Athlete school. Not a football school. Athlete school. If you're an athlete, come Tallahassee. What about Dana? Is she close to leaving? Like, can she leave? Is she like I know she's like
she could leave. She's a junior.
Yeah.
So she's still, I mean, she might stay another year. I don't know. I don't know if she's going to go or stay or not. I don't know. But she's just a junior, so she could come back. And then they have the ACC Freshman of the Year, a girl from, I believe she's from China, who's awesome.
Yeah. I think she had the game-winning goal.
He gets them all the time. He gets them every year. He gets these incredible players to come here.
Yuji Zhao, I think that was who kicked the game-winning PK. So
there you go. How'd that taste, USC?
Boom.
You'll come to Tallahassee and come away with 2. Actually, USC played here earlier in the year, like in September, I think. And they tied 0-0. Then they came back, tied again, but this time we went to PKs and sent you on a plane back to Los Angeles with an L.
Yeah. They're coaching. They're going to have they need a new coach, I feel like. They just lost to UCLA. But it's not.
Oh, you're talking about USC football now. Yeah, they are going to get a new coach, right?
Yeah,
he's done.
I don't know who they're going to get. Jack Del Rio or Jeff Fisher, something stupid. Talk about just squandering away I don't know. They have the ability to print money over there, and they somehow just like keep running out of paper or something. I don't know. They just
you think about USC since we've been alive. They've been good, like really good. I've been alive for 43 years. I want to say since, let's say, 1980.
Yeah. So
38 years. They've probably been like nationally relevant, like really good, like 11 of those years.
Yeah.
12. I mean, in the 90s, they were non-existent.
Correct.
Like, I remember they came to this Carson Palmer's freshman year. They played here in 98. A hurricane was rolling through town, too. It was crazy. At halftime, it almost blew the stadium over. But, I mean, I think they had like 96 yards of offense. Like, they didn't even belong on the same field with Florida State.
Yeah.
And that was 20 years ago. Like, that was, I mean, it all comes down to that one coach. And he made them awesome. It was a combination of location and coach. And he turned them into a winner and a fun team and the team of Los Angeles. But, man, sometimes at a school like that, that's why I've always thought Florida State's a better job than these other jobs, is because they've proven with multiple coaches that they can win. Like Miami. When Miami was Miami, I don't think Miami can be that anymore. But, USC for the last 40 years has been, golly, they've had one great stretch in 4 decades. So I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're supposed to be great. I wouldn't put them ahead of Florida State as a football school, would you? Like as a better job?
I think most lists have them in the top 5 just because it's the LA factor. Like but then I don't know, maybe with the Rams and the Chargers being out there now, maybe it's not as sexy of a draw, but it's got to be pretty cool to live in Los Angeles.
I mean, not really. The smog and the traffic and all the all the ugly people.
Yeah.
The sun probably gets boring.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I don't know. I like Pasadena. I've always like, I don't know, Los Angeles. I know it's a different city, but it's, same vicinity. Pasadena was just so magical in 13. I'll always fondly look back on LA. Anyhow, all right.
Hey, well, real quick, I'm going to let you go with something. It's a 2013 fact of the day.
All right.
Because Jameis came off the bench to play well, and I assume has a starting job back. And I looked up all the players off that 2013 team that are in the NFL, and I added up how much money they've already made combined.
Okay.
$209 million. Just from that one roster.
Yeah.
And Jalen hasn't hit his second contract yet, and Jameis hasn't hit his second contract yet. So when it's all said and done, and Telvin's going to probably have at least one more contract, I mean, aren't we looking at about $350 million from one football team?
What a man. I don't even want to
just a juggernaut, just the mother of all football teams. And if they just donate 20% of all that money, maybe we don't have the whole university named after Al Dunlap. That's all I'm saying. Or they've got connections. Cam Irving, Jameis, LaMarcus Joyner. Go find some high school offensive linemen and tell them how cool Tallahassee is. Get your Luther Campbell on a little bit if you have to. We're not telling you to cheat. We're not telling you to cheat. But if you want to, spend that. But invest back in the program that invested in you.
All right. Well said. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.